This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for Monday, February 11th. I'm Mark Martin. Today, another possible government shutdown. It could happen as budget negotiations in Washington break down again. And 40 years ago today, a revolution that's still playing a major impact on the world as the Islamic government came to power in Iran. We'll look at what the mullahs in Iran are planning next. Plus, Bible classes are popping up in a place where you might not expect them. And it's a night to shine, the annual proms for those with special needs, sponsored by the Tim Tebow Foundation. We'll tell you about those stories and much more on NewsWatch. We begin now with the president heading to El Paso, Texas to round up support for his border wall, and it looks like he's going to need it as weekend talks between lawmakers ended in a stalemate. The latest fight is over the number of detention beds for illegal immigrants. Democrats want to limit the amount, saying it will force ICE to go after hard criminals, but Republicans disagree.
You're actually incentivizing more illegal immigration by reducing the bed space, and it undercuts any money you would get for a wall. He can't sign that bill.
Washington correspondent Amber Strong has been following this story, and she joins us now. Amber, what is the sense there on Capitol Hill? Could we see another shutdown?
I'm not sure a shutdown is likely, but as far as something coming out of this deal, as Senator Shelby said yesterday, it's about a 50-50 chance. The interesting thing about all of this, Mark, is that the people in that room were chosen because they are people who are supposedly able to work together and not kind of throw out things to the extreme left or the extreme right, and here we are at this impasse. So it's very interesting that they've kind of halted negotiations.
Amber, what about the president's demands for money for a border wall? Where does that stand?
So the president, as of now, the number could be anywhere as low as $800 million, which is what one lawmaker had suggested, to $2.5 billion, which is about half of what President Trump has indicated he needs. Mick Mulvaney, the acting White House chief of staff, in a number of interviews said yesterday, if the president is not able to get that full $5.7 billion that he needs, there are other options, that other option including declaring a national emergency.
We talked earlier about the president heading to El Paso today. Tell us what's going to be going on there.
So it's kind of a battling rallies, if you will. So the President Trump will be gathering with Texas Governor Abbott and Senator Ted Cruz. And then kind of a throwback to the midterm elections, you have Beto O'Rourke, who will be holding his own rally on the border. Beto O'Rourke is from El Paso. El Paso has become sort of this talking point for the president as to why walls work. But Beto O'Rourke wants to show that the president is wrong about El Paso, that El Paso is a safe city, and that, in his words, the president is sort of fear-mongering. So it'll be an interesting showdown there in Texas.
All right, it should be. Well, Amber Strong, thanks so much for your report from Washington.
Thank you, Mark.
And tonight on CBN's Faith Nation, we'll have a look at the president's trip to El Paso and on the battle over a border wall with the latest from the White House and Capitol Hill. That's on Faith Nation at 6 p.m. only on the CBN News Channel. A Virginia lawmaker has backed off a plan to introduce an impeachment bill today, seeking the removal of the second most powerful officer in the state. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax faces allegations of sexual assault, which he vehemently denies, as the governor and state attorney general are embroiled in their own scandals. Both have acknowledged wearing blackface in the 1980s. But despite calls from many state and national level Democrats, Governor Ralph Northam says he won't resign.
Virginia needs someone that can heal. There's no better person to do that than a doctor. Virginia also needs someone who is strong, who has empathy, who has courage, and who has a moral compass. And that's why I'm not going anywhere. I have learned from this. I have a lot more to learn.
If the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general all left office or were removed, the Speaker of the House will become governor. He's a Republican, which is giving the Democratic office holders another reason to try to keep their positions. Republican Congressman Walter Jones of North Carolina passed away Sunday at the age of 76. His office issued a statement Sunday about his death, saying he faithfully served the people of eastern North Carolina and the state legislature for more than 34 years. He dedicated his life to serving his Savior and to standing up for Americans who needed a voice for the military and their families. One thing he was known for in Congress was his fight to see the Johnson Amendment repealed. He introduced legislation every session of the House since 2001 in hopes of seeing it repealed. It's the law that denies tax-exempt status to any organization, including houses of worship, if they endorse or oppose political candidates. He once told CBN News it's kind of like Big Brother, listening to what the minister or priest or rabbi might be saying. His staff says he was a man of the people, known for his honesty and integrity, with a kind heart and the courage of his convictions. He was also widely respected by both Republicans and Democrats. New Jersey is now the second state in the nation to require schools to teach about LGBTQ history. Under the new law, public school teachers must include lessons about the political, social, and economic contributions of gay and transgender people. New Jersey Governor Democrat Phil Murphy says he was honored to sign the legislation into law. He tweeted, "LGBTQ plus history is part of our shared story, and students deserve to know it." Proud to sign a bill that makes New Jersey the second state in the nation to require an LGBTQ plus inclusive curriculum in our schools. It was modeled after a California law, the first state with the requirement that's been in place since 2011. The ISIS caliphate in Syria is coming to an end, but as CBN News contributor Chuck Holton reports from the war-weary southern Syria, they aren't giving up easily. They're using women and children as human shields, and civilians are fleeing for their lives.
So I'm now within sight of ISIS' last stand in the area of Hajin, right back behind me. Just off to my right is a place called Baghous, where they say the last ISIS fighters are holed up. We've been hearing airstrikes throughout the evening, last night, into the early morning hours. It sounds like the military has really stepped up its efforts to eradicate the last of these guys. But what that's causing is more people to flee, and many of them are injured. And so here at this collection point, those who can make it here have been walking to this point where they're processed by the Syrian Defense Forces, and they're then moved to further side inland. This 19-year-old woman is a French citizen who came with her mother to join ISIS when she was only 15.
I came in 2015 with my mother and my sister to live in the Khilafah. And after this I want to escape, but they ask a lot of money, and my family in French, they scared to send the money. There is no food, nothing. No food, we was living in the tent. No electricity, never electricity, nothing. I want to go back to my country.
Buses come every afternoon to take these women and children to a camp several hours away. Any men who surrender are assumed to be ISIS fighters and are taken to a detention facility. Families who arrive too late are forced to spend the night here in the desert. The light is almost gone out here, and we're still hearing fighting going on a couple kilometers away. But the more pressing emergency right now is that there are maybe a couple hundred people out here behind me in this just desert. They got dumped off here after escaping from ISIS, but they're going to have to spend the night out here. Last night it was about 30 degrees, and people could die out here. I'm just watching them as they try to prepare for what they know is coming. It's already below 40, I would say. Clear sky. It's going to be extremely cold here tonight. And there are these holes that were dug in the earth to be used as slit trenches, as bathrooms. And what they're doing is going in and cleaning out all the excrement and throwing it out, and they're going to sleep in there tonight because it's at least out of the wind. Many of these people are injured as well. It's just hard to imagine. We've given away all the blankets we had. I gave away my warm socks. We're trying to figure out a way to help these people as much as we can, but it's just a drop in the ocean. And so I'm just not sure what else we can do except pray. From the Euphrates River Valley in southern Syria, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Yeah, definitely pray for the innocent women and children and men and innocent civilians in Syria. In other news, White House senior advisor Jared Kushner will be headed to the Middle East later this month to push for peace. Kushner will make stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates to present details of the president's economic Middle East peace plan. According to Politico, the plan will in part create economic incentives for Palestinians. It is a plan that Kushner has been overseeing for nearly 2 years. The White House is preparing to release what it hopes is a finalized peace plan for Israel and the Palestinians. Coming up, a look at major government overthrow in history 40 years ago today and the serious impact it's still having on the world.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphan's Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
40 years ago today, a radical Iranian cleric led the overthrow of his country's government and installed an Islamist regime. It still stands and is the world's leading sponsor of terror. As CBN's John Waggy explains, Israel stands on the front line to prevent Iran from expanding westward and destroying the Jewish state.
In 1979, the world was introduced to the menacing glare of the Ayatollah Khomeini. His Iranian revolution ousted the Shah of Iran, a U.S. ally, and put its mark on American history with a hostage crisis that lasted more than a year. Its leaders began to purge the country of Western influence and set Iran on a path of expansion and Islamist terror. During the revolution, the U.S. was dubbed the Great Satan by the ruling mullahs. Still, most of their hatred was reserved for the country they called the Little Satan, Israel. For 4 decades, they have vowed to wipe it off the map. The show of force continued this month as Iran paraded its missiles in Tehran.
I think a clash is inevitable.
Middle East expert Michael Widlansky says according to Israeli military sources, Iran has armed Hezbollah in Lebanon with enough missiles to bombard all of Israel for weeks.
Lebanon itself is so well armed with Hezbollah missiles and rockets that Israel could face every day, not 10 rockets, not 100 rockets, but 2,500 rocket attacks every day over a period of 3 weeks.
And that doesn't take into account Iran's nuclear program. In last year's UN address, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu exposed a secret nuclear site with 300 tons of nuclear material.
Now, I also have a message today for the tyrants of Tehran. Israel knows what you're doing, and Israel knows where you're doing it. Israel will never let a regime that calls for our destruction to develop nuclear weapons. Not now, not in 10 years, not ever.
While Widlansky warns Israel can take care of itself, he worries if the mullahs aren't stopped, their grand design could swallow up the region.
The Iranians want Shia Islam to be the face of Islam. That means they want to go after Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait. They want to go after all their neighbors and project their force all the way to the Mediterranean and to the Atlantic. They want to go through Lebanon and then through North Africa. They want to go through Yemen. They have a real expansionist process, which is similar to what the communists and the Nazis had. This is not just a religious calling. This is very serious power politics strategy playing.
John Waggy, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, a move to return to learning from the Bible in public school classrooms.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
Welcome back. Given today's society, you might be surprised to know about a movement gaining ground to start Bible classes in public schools. 7 states already recognize these classes and 6 more could follow. CBN's Heather Sells has that story.
The believers behind this latest push say their idea is simple and to the point. Teach the book that has shaped our civilization like no other.
Who in the world would want to ban or censor one of the top 5 impactful books in all of history?
Former Congressman Randy Forbes is helping to lead the charge. His Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation has joined other Christian groups to promote religious freedom legislation at the state level. Last week, President Trump gave them a Twitter shout-out, publicly praising the idea of elective Bible classes for high school students.
Doesn't it just make sense that we should have that book that's been so impactful at least be studied and examined by people who want to study and examine in the place where we go to explore ideas and look at what we're going to do for tomorrow?
Not everyone agrees. Religion writer Jonathan Merritt says evangelicals need to remember that the same schools teaching their kids about sexuality and science would now teach them the Bible.
So it seems to me to be kind of a strange ask that you would say, yeah, I want a government employee in a public school teaching my kid about Holy Scripture, because when it comes to a lot of the scholarly consensus on Holy Scripture, these things diverge from majority opinions among evangelicals.
Teaching this subject in the public school system clearly has its complications. For example, back in 1963, the Supreme Court ruled the Bible is worthy of study for its literary and historic qualities. Justices also added it must be presented objectively with no devotional readings. Groups like Freedom from Religion and the ACLU claim that's not happening and have sued school districts in Texas for not presenting the Bible objectively. Their main concern, Christians will use these classes as an opportunity to evangelize.
The problem, critics say, with these bills is that they're really a covert attempt not just to teach the Bible as history or as literature, but to teach the Bible through an interpretive lens, essentially to promote Christian values in public schools.
Forbes and others maintain if schools can objectively teach controversial topics like politics and government, they can do the same with the Bible.
We are not trying to get someone or tell someone they have to believe a certain thing. We're just saying, look at this, the history of this book, look at the importance of the ideas in this book, look at how it plays a role in even the policy in the United States of America. You make your own decisions.
It's a tall order, but worth it, say supporters, to teach such an important book to the next generation. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Coming up, kings and queens, every one of them in God's eyes, as A Night to Shine celebrates kids with special needs around the world.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphan's Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
A program note, be sure to catch the latest from Faith Wired tonight on the CBN News Channel with Dan Andros and Dale Partridge. It's at 9:30 Eastern. It was a night to shine worldwide with proms held for 90,000 young people with special needs this year. It was Friday night and was sponsored by Tim Tebow's foundation and just keeps growing. Take a look at highlights from the year before to see how God is showing his love to these beautiful children and teens.
You're all kings and queens. Absolutely. Well, I hope that you're going to be queen of the dance floor tonight.
Grab your favorite pair of denim, patched up knees and faded blue. Fold 220s in your pocket, kiss your mama at the door. Take a picture, perfect postcard, and send it out across the world. This is our time, our night to shine. Oh, take my hand, hold on tight, don't look back to the morning light. Let the world know it's been so long. Tell tomorrow not to hurry. We're just fine. This is our night. This is our night to shine.
Wow, what a powerful event. Hats off to Tim Tebow for yielding to God, and look what's happened all around the world. Well, thanks for joining us for today for the first edition of CBN News Watch. You can find more on the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com and can watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and a great week.